how many of us know a lot of leechers, right? Who leeches on to someone to tell them all their problems, but doesn't necessarily ask you how you're doing. And I don't want to take this too far here, so let's not retract. But I do want to talk about this because there's how many of us know those people, even out there, those that listening, that comes to you every single time that something's wrong in their life, but they never even check on how you're doing in your life. Mm-hmm. But they call that a friendship.
I know some people.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of StoryTime Podcast, episode 9. It feels good. Yeah, I mean, y'all know it's coming by then. It does feel good.
That's what you need on your shirt.
Hey,
it feels good.
What does it feel? It feels good in this new sweater that I'm wearing, rocking a new gear.
That's what you're talking about. We should all get our custom t-shirts. Yours needs to say, feels good.
I think I will get that. Yeah, it feels good. What feels good? It's always something that feels good. And today it's this sweater that I'm rocking. What's the story blog? Go to the website, scroll all the way to the bottom. You can buy that per set right there from that link. Let's get started today. We have 2 people missing. Let's recap on the week, guys. Who want to jump it off?
I feel like my week wasn't that eventful.
So then I'll go. So I got some good news this week.
I'm gonna guess it has something to do with our auditions.
That's right.
Okay.
I found out that I was cast in the play.
I feel like, and this is my take on that. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
But I feel like you stand out so much in there, being that how many black people auditioned for that play? It probably
3 or 4.
Okay, 3 or 4, and then also we got how many of them had your height?
Oh, no.
My point. So all Chase just had to be excellent. If Chase screwed up, it would have been bad. Like that would have been so that you had 2 ways to go. It could have been really good, or it could have went really bad.
I agree with that. So like when I went, because I had a callback. So when I went, I was reading the lines for 2 different characters, and the first character that I read for, I completely just messed it up. Like I didn't feel it. But when I went back for the second character, the guy who was in there, who had already been cast in the play, and I was reading lines like with him. Yeah. He gave me so much like energy, and it was such a good vibe. I was able to feed off of that, and it turned out to be a really good audition. So, once again, shout out to my professor for pushing me out there and making me better every single day. Christy, you've done a great job, so thank you.
Oh, so I guess I do have one thing. Is like episode 7, back when we recorded in the living room on the couches, our like headphone amp shot and it broke. So actually, here's a little Easter egg for you guys. If you guys go back and watch episode 7, you'll see at a point in the podcast we all just start taking our headphones off because they weren't working. But yeah, shout out to my dad because he ordered us a new headphone amp. So now we got this nice fancy new equipment, so we can have like 8. I think we could actually have 16 headphones hooked up at one time to this bad boy.
That's a lot of gas.
Wow.
That's a lot of gas.
Wow.
I don't think we'll ever use all 16 slots, but...
Wow.
You need a longer table for that.
Right, yeah.
Jeff is the man for that. Appreciate it. We really do. Wow. We might as well have a play of our own at this point.
Hey, you're right. We can start writing a script right now.
Right.
Can you imagine a 16-person podcast? That'd be so like
that's
hectic.
Insane.
It wouldn't even...
Insane.
We have to raise our hands.
Exactly. Be like, oh...
My turn. At that point, we might as well might as well get in the classroom.
Yeah.
Everybody's got 2 minutes to talk.
That's.
Did you do your reading for today?
Right. At that point, it's just a deliberation.
Right.
So yeah, my week started Monday. Went up to Mission City, travel. Was fortunate enough to speak on a radio show that was amazing. All Things Mission City with Angie Nelson Deitch. That was fantastic experience. 90, I don't want to butcher their name.
93 point.
I believe
it was
it
like
was
95.9. Right?
95.1 FM. Yep, 95.1 FM.
Okay.
It was great. Wim's radio show, that was amazing. After that, kind of took my talents over to the high school. And, man, have the high school changed, y'all.
Really?
Bro?
The high school
don't they got
changed.
co-principals now?
They have co-principals, in which I was talking to some of the students. They said they never really see them, which was a little bit, they said they probably, one is like conduct of the students, another one is something, So like they're kind of hired. It's more of an administration. I mean, it's kind of strange, but the things that I really want to say has changed. Of course, we know that administration has changed, and hopefully for the better, moving forward. But what really changed is really the environment, y'all. So the entire M wing is decked out with like doors and stuff, and like that entire back space of like where Freitag's classroom and that's all like mechanic shops now.
Really?
And like they have garages in both rooms that like open to the outside, like mini garages, and it's all it's like glass doors at the end of the M wing that you have to open to go back there, and real Troy.
I want to see it.
Yeah, I gotta see it now.
All of it is carpet now.
What's AK for if they have that at the high school now?
Well, I think AK is to like further that, but now when it comes to like mechanic different classes,
so just like intro classes and stuff.
Yeah, they have. I mean, all the machinery they have. Of course, they've been at 3D print and stuff like that, but they have. It's pretty decked out back there.
So then, what did they do with like the Spanish and like the French and like all the?
So no. Follow me. We're going down the N wing and all the way down by like past early college and all that.
Gotcha.
Stuff.
Okay.
That side of it, where like Freitag's room.
Where like Arnett's room was. And back in that corner.
Yeah. Okay.
But it actually starts before you take the turn, right? So it starts right after. It starts before the room that's all the way at the end.
So you walk through the
it's an L, and it starts on the
right at the like cross
before the cross, right before the cross.
All right. Well, I don't know how many of our viewers are familiar with the M wing of Michigan City High School. So let's move on.
So yeah, you can see the excitement there on our faces when we heard that, but it was a great experience. I was enthused to find out that even with speaking to my counselor there of the early college program, many of the students in early college, or not many of the students, many of the teachers in the early college program are playing our college films, and it's we got regards to how much the conversations that they're having about those films and how much they're helping. And one of the feedback that we really got with the Purdue film in particular is just it really helped a lot of the students identify themselves and see themselves in those shoes of Purdue, and really break those stereotypes. I know I believe I was speaking with Mr. Boone and as well as Mrs. Frederick, and we were kind of speaking, and she was saying how the students really seem like I can see myself in those shoes when and really going to Purdue now, and it's not just a predominantly white institution. And some of those statistics really did stand out, shockingly. But Michigan City is now 52% African American school, so it's really a diverse place,
very diverse.
And I'll keep you guys in tune with what more we have going out and moving towards that space as well. But I'm just being patient on my timing, getting things right before we really begin to do things for the school. But we will eventually move forward with working with Michigan City. I love the area. Mark the calendars. We'll bring this back up. But December 17th, I will be going to go speak at the school at 9 a.m. To some of the students there. So moving forward with our 3 branches of inspiration, cultivation, and innovation. So that's what we're really pushing for. Taking this development, moving it around, and I just thought that was fantastic to really. Think about it. Imagine seeing one of these films in the classroom and, doing this really when we were seniors in high school. It's freshmen, it's early freshmen watching these videos,
that's
really
good, yeah.
Getting some groundswork to it, too, so.
Yeah. Well, I brought my quote for the day.
Let's hear it. Chase's quote of the day. We need some theme music. We need to get like some.
We need soundboard.
We
hit that. Yeah.
We'll definitely.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah. If Jeff watches, Jeff would probably ship it in the mail, and we'd be like, "Let's go, 2 for 2."
This one's gonna need a little bit of a explanation, but
let's break it down.
It says comparison is the killer of all joy, and to break that down, in the 21st century, or the year that we live in.
One second. Let's repeat that really quick. Go slow.
Okay, comparison is the killer of all joy.
Okay.
So when I heard this, I automatically thought. We're living in the 21st century. Everybody has, social media. And so you can see, what your friends have and what everybody else is doing. And then, you're looking at it and you're like, oh, that person has, that, Gucci belt or that new phone or that new car. I want it. Like, why can't I have that? And it's like, why are you trying to compare yourself to what other people have or what other people are doing? Why can't we all just, and we're all, victims of this, but it's like, why can't we focus on what we have instead of worrying about what somebody else has? And I think that, our phones are the reason why all this has started, because, when I remember back in preschool when the first, camera phone came out, and it was like crazy. And it's just now that, all of us are just, walking around on our phones, texting, tweeting, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I don't think that we should, be comparing our lives to somebody else's when they could have, worked hard for, what they have. And why can't we, work hard as well? Why do we have to, say that person shouldn't have that, or, I need that too,
And I think it's, it comes down to what's the word? Like the 7 deadly sins. What's the one I'm thinking of? It's like like jealousy, almost. You're like jealous of what other people got, but envy. I think is the word. Envy. Yeah. And it's just like with social media, it's so much easier to be envious because everyone's life is just out on display, and of course people only display the good parts, right? So you look on social media and all you see is everyone living such good lives, and you're like, why is my life not that good? But there's a couple things with that. Is first of all, you're not seeing the other parts of people's lives. They're not putting on social media the bad parts. And when I first heard your quote, I kind of took it a little differently, and it was more along the lines of like, I have joy because of something good that happened to me, but then I see someone else that like something better happened, and then I'm like, oh, well, mine doesn't look so good in comparison, and so that's comparison is the killer of joy. So that's kind of the way I interpreted it.
And I'll start by fluencing like my initial thoughts on this, and going back with a reference of a story. And I may need an insurance bucket here, but I'm not gonna list any names or anything. But there was a friend of mine that I was essentially meeting with every week, and we kind of spoke about this, getting her better, and at everyday life, and really enjoying your life and what you have rather than paying attention to what someone else has. So when I initially thought of comparison as the killer of joy, in that situation it was just so I asked the question, why do you engage with social media, right? So why do you use social media? And I think my first instinct took me straight to this example because I thought of social media, which I'll kind of tie the knot and how that connects here in a second. But why do you engage with social media? Okay, so I engage with social media to share my happiness, to share my joy, is what the answer was, given. I engage with social media to post and make other people, happy and inspired by my postings. But the other side of social media is not just to post, right? So why do you scroll, huh? Like, why do you genuinely,
entertainment?
Yeah, why do you? So and the answer that was given, I'm not sure, right? I kind of want to keep up with other people and see what they're up to too. And I say, okay, so how does that make you feel? I love that they're doing well, but it doesn't necessarily, make me feel good about myself because it makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then in this context, it's like, I think many times in my first initial thought when it came from that, in that piece of, it makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. When you compare yourself to the, comparison is the killer of joy.
Mm-hmm.
So then you are your own person is kind of what I kind of, initially thought of. Your joy is distinctively for you. And so why is it that there's two different ways that someone may view someone like joy, right? So like when you compare yourself to someone else, it may say, and it's at two ends of a spectrum here is what I want to get at, is you can either look at someone and be envious, you can look at someone and be envious or jealous, or you can look at someone and be motivated.
Yeah.
And I think there's two different ways of looking at that. And many times when, comparison becomes the killer of joy, because I think that's a distinct within this quote, comparison becomes the killer of joy. And the reason being, when you look at it as not as motivation, but as jealousy, is that when it kills your own self and what you have accomplished within, right?
Yeah.
And what you do have, not rather than what you don't have.
I also think that, you can genuinely be happy for, what somebody else is doing in their life, like
happy for them.
Right, exactly. Just happy that, they're doing well, or that, they're accomplishing their, their dreams and goals. I don't think, just because, they have something doesn't mean that you have to want it, You can just be like, oh, wow, that person, they finally got that car that they've been wanting to get, that they've been saving up to get, or, oh, wow, they're traveling the world. That's good for them. They've always been talking about that. So, yeah.
I don't know. I think there is a good type of comparison, though. And that's comparing yourself to your past self. And that type of comparison, I don't think kills joy. I think it brings joy. Because you can find joy in progress.
Well, that's under the assumption.
If you've made progress.
I was going to say, that's under the assumption that you've been better. Because,
right.
Imagine if you come from the best place ever and then now you're in a slump and now it's like, oh, I used to be so good at, I used to be this, I used to be that. Yeah. I used to be so happy when I was in that relationship, but now I'm, sad. Now, But your point is valid when it comes to that sense. So I think that it's very easy. And when it comes to relationships or even goals, aspirations that we have, to say, man, I wish that could have been me. Mm-hmm. I wish that I could be in their shoes. And then the question that you begin to ask is, why is it not me? Why is it that everyone else is in happy relationships? Why is it that everyone else has, reaching their goals, but then why am I not meeting the person of my dreams, right? So when when I'm doing a lot of consulting work and stuff, it's like, why? Turn on, let's ask you that question, right? So why are you not, and you guys can speak on it, you see people that have goals, dreams, things that you want, and you don't necessarily envy them, assumptionally, right? But you want those things and you're still in a good headspace, right? Mm-hmm. So why is it that you guys don't necessarily envy, these people? Why is it that you are still in a good headspace and not necessarily are jealous of these people? So what is it for you guys?
So I guess to start it off, I want to say that it's not like 100% of the time I feel a certain type of way. Because there are times, where there's times where I feel like, I guess, super like proud of myself and confident in myself, and it's like I've come a long way and I've got a lot of potential, I can really see myself going places. But then there's other times where I look at myself and I'm like, I'm still a nobody, right? I don't got a lot of followers, what if my album flops, what if, and so, it kind of like goes back and forth. Sometimes I look at other people and I'm like, man, I wish I was just there already where they are. But then other times, I can appreciate where I am, and I can look at other people and be like, that's awesome for him. I'm glad to see that he's doing great, Mm-hmm. So it's not like a 100% of the time I feel a certain type of way, because, emotions don't work like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You experience a range of emotions at different times, and that's just how it goes.
For me, I'm a, I like to say a lot that, everything happens for a reason. And for me, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I say that everything happens for a reason according to God's will. So, there are times where I'm like, why can't that be me? But then I have to, just sit there and think for a second, well, that's because God didn't want it to happen for me. He's saying it's not my time yet. Or that, like, I have something else for you, So, I think that, we shouldn't, everybody's going to be, there's going to be times where you're envious because that, for instance, that person got that, Division I scholarship offer. And you're like, I've been working hard, why can't that be me? Well, maybe God is saying, well, that's because it's not for you. That was for him. I got something else better for you down the future if you just wait and just relax a little bit,
I definitely, also believe that everything happens for a reason, but I also believe you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's true. That is true.
That's, I really think you got to take, even if you do find yourself feeling envious of people, I think you really just need to take it and change it into inspiration, right?
Yeah.
See where they are and say, I want to get there, right? And like you said, it's two sides of the spectrum. So you got to turn that envy into motivation, into inspiration, and then start taking shots. Yeah. Because eventually you're gonna hit the shot, or eventually that door is gonna present itself to you. But if you're just staying still, then you're not gonna come across any doors, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, this is good. This is good. So look at it from another perspective. So let's look at it from, we want to be someone, but at the same time we don't understand where they even are. We get envy or jealous of someone or something that we don't even know what it fully is because we don't have it. Mm-hmm. So then in their shoes, and this is one of the stories that I explained, I know someone that, and this is in a relationship spectrum. We can take it there. We can take it to relationships. So someone was envious, right? And the conversation that we had is like, why am I getting jealous of someone else's relationship? Why all my friends are in a relationship? This, that, all that type of things. But then when I look at someone else, they're so happy, they're so this. So then let's take it from that perspective. It was a couple that got engaged in college. Everyone dreams of getting engaged in college. And
I don't know about that.
Well, the fantasy of staying with your,
staying with your
college love.
Yeah.
And anyways, they ended up getting engaged either during college senior year or right after college, and they got married. They're a couple 3-4 years out of college, and it was during COVID time, and the wife cheated on the husband
during COVID.
And give or take, mental different things of that nature. It didn't really play much of a role with him leaving her. Mm-hmm. And he gave his heart out. He did everything for her. He moved to her location. He did all this stuff for her. And that same relationship that everybody aspired to, want to be, such as over the, last 6-7 years, they've been seeing this, all throughout college coming. That's that stardom couple. That's that couple right there. That's the
power couple.
The power couple, right? As we would say, and that couple got a divorce, right? So then it's like you're aspiring essentially to get a divorce, right? So it's like so we don't even know the situation of what, and like you said, God's will. We don't know what God has planned for them. So let's stop. Like even if someone is in that situation of even if somebody is rich, someone is we don't envy their situation. Do not envy trying to be them because we don't know exactly we don't even know what it's like to be them. They could be going through the most miserable time and they don't know, you don't know what they're going through. So even when I look at anybody that I want to be as this, that, and the third, I don't want to be anybody else. I always want to be myself because at the end of the day, it's God's plan for me. I don't want to switch shoes, switch positions, switch roles. I don't want to do any of that. I love what you're doing, so it's motivation. It's instant. And I think when we turn this mindset on, that a lot of times this is how we are able to make that motivation. Because when we want to be them, we don't know what they're going through. We just see what's on the outside, or we just see what. At the same time, we don't understand what that journey is like post, nor what it's like during the current situation of who and what they are.
I want to speak on what you just said real quick. Number one, I have two things to say. My coach in middle school, he used to always say that when we'd be practicing at on the football field, and there'd be people, riding by and just like standing like on the fence, he'd always say, they're on the outside looking in. They wish that they could be in. It's like, I don't know like how to word that, but it's like, yeah, they're just like,
I got a good example, just like carrying on with that.
Yeah.
Man in the arena.
Yeah.
It's actually a Bible verse that I can't necessarily transcribe right now, but it stems from a Bible verse. And the man is in the arena. So like the first thing that I thought of when you said that is we tend to make fun of people or say someone sucks. So say for example, let's set up the situation. Game 7, NBA Finals, Steph Curry's on the game, or not even Steph Curry, let's just say, I don't know,
LeBron.
Give me a name. Who? LeBron, because he missed free throws sometimes.
Whoa.
He's on the game winning, sometimes. We gotta admit that. He on the game winning free throw line. Game winner, right? They're down by 2.
Yeah.
No. They're down by 1. He has to make both these free throws to win the game. He misses them both. But then, and this is what happened in the college sports, in the college March Madness. I can't remember what college team, but the guy missed the shot for the free throws, and he's getting death threats. I think it was Michigan. The guy missed the game-winning free throw, and he's getting death threats from all these people, all this hatred, DMs, all this other type of stuff. And this happens all the time. Same thing with the kick, same thing with
if you miss a kick.
What's my man named? Parkey, Chicago Bears, who missed the kick.
Cody Parkey.
But look, this is the thing. They are in that. They've worked to get to that situation, right? How can we judge their situation because of one event, right? So when you said that, it kind of like it thinks like we're not even in their shoes. How can we judge anything about them? How can we make any type of judgment about that person? How can we send a death threat to someone who we know nothing about? All we know is that they did one thing in their craft that got them to this position. They are professionals at what they do because they're in this position. We're not even in their position, so how can we judge what they're doing?
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. And then, people will be like, that's their only job. Like they should, make the kick or they should make the shot. Well, things happen, all right? Like, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody is.
I wonder how many of them been late to work or, they got written up for something. Like, everyone messes up,
Let's take it there today.
Wait. But before we go there, I want to go back a little bit. Back to, you were talking about this couple.
Yeah.
And as soon as you started talking about the couple, I automatically went to this movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's one of Tyler Perry's movies called Why Did I Get Married? And in the first movie, there's 2 of them. In the first movie, there's this couple that all the friends like look up to. Like whenever they're having like everybody else is having problems, they always go to this couple. They're like like you said, the power couple.
Yeah.
And the wife she's a writer and she's like this like counselor, and everybody always flock to them for relationship advice. Yeah. Well, in the second movie, they were the couple that got divorced.
Yeah.
They were the couple that was going through the most problems that nobody knew about.
Yeah.
And it was like everybody was always flocking to them for advice when they honestly needed help too. And it's like, why are we looking to other people for the answer to our problems when they could be having the same issue as us?
If not worse.
If not worse.
So let's repeat that.
Why are we always looking to other people for the answer to our problems when they could be going through the same thing and it could be worse?
You know what else I want to bring up, and I don't want to go too off topic with that. I really don't. But also, do we know a lot of how many of us know a lot of leechers, right? Who leeches on to someone to tell them all their problems, but doesn't necessarily ask you how you're doing. And I don't want to take this too far here, so let's not retract. But I do want to talk about this because there's how many of us know those people, even out there, those that listening, that comes to you every single time that something's wrong in their life, but they never even check on how you're doing in your life. Mm-hmm. But they call that a friendship.
I know some people.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak too much. I don't want to speak too much on it.
Insurance bucket on this one. Somebody want to give an example?
I don't want to speak too much on that.
Yeah, we don't really need to get into that too much.
Okay.
But we all know the type.
Yeah,
okay, so let's just say this. Let's just say this as we kind of
Hey, and I ain't, I'm gonna be straight up. I've been on the other end too, where someone has always been there for me, but I've been kind of like absent for them.
It happens. I mean, we all do it. It's not.
Yeah. So let me ask before I bring up this point. From speaking from that perspective, how do you engage yourself or lock yourself in that culture of are you conscious of it during that time, or is it something you reflect on now that you kind of know that you're kind of not in that space, right? So now you can reflect and say, I was once in there. But like when you're in that space of performing the act of going to the same person over and over and over with the same issues, essentially becoming a burden, as such on their mental toll, because that's what happens when we don't really when we begin to bear on people with problems of ours, right? So when you're kind of going through that stage, is it something that you're conscious of, or is it something that kind of like the only person that can you kind of speak from that perspective so that we can kind of engage with those who are in those shoes, right?
So I think I may have misunderstood you at first. I don't usually go to people with my problems, right? I just mean like kind of more of a one-sided friendship, where like one person's, I guess, more
in tune into what's going on.
Right. Well, like one person's more invested in the friendship than the other. That's what I was talking about. Because I don't really go to people with my problems if I have problems. I mean, if I do, it'd be like my closer friends, and I don't know. But
so I was gonna say either with problems or like asking for like the one person that every time they calls asking for money, or every time they text ask for money, or something like that. So now I guess we can kind of make the assumption, since none of us were kind of there. I don't remember a time that I necessarily was in that shoe, but the way that I would kind of presume someone to be in that shoe, do you guys think that it would be like a lack of consciousness? Like I'm not realizing that this is what I'm doing? Or is it just... Because 9 times out of 10, I think those people really do care about the person that they're going to, but they just don't realize the toll that they're having on that relationship.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it is a lack of, consciousness. I just think that, some people just get so focused on, what they're going through that they just need to get it out, just rant a little bit, that, they forget that, somebody else could be having, problems and they need to, rant too. But, they don't think about that. They just think about, what they're going through. They're not thinking about what else somebody else could be going through.
Or it could be that, a person only has like one close friend that they trust, and so they kind of rely on that person heavily for, advice and, just ranting and stuff like that. And maybe they start to become a nuisance in a way.
And I'm looking up on I can't remember the exact who wrote this, but I'll just bring it to us. So I read an article, or maybe it was actually a text from a piece of a book, or it may have been an article. I can't exactly pinpoint what I read, but it was called, and I want to get this right. Women bear the relationship. No, sorry. Women bear the burden in a relationship, and what that
more than men.
And this is what I'm alluding to. This is the article. It was women bear the burden in the relationship more than... Yes,
I remember talking about this in EQ.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, in EQ.
Yeah.
And the reason being, men tend to not show their emotions as much to their manly friends, right? In a sense of men usually go home and then usually pour out to their woman, right? So then they tend to hold that burden of being the only space that a man can give all their emotions to, but then that reaches it takes a mental toll or a burden.
It's kind of like what I just said.
Exactly.
Where like some people might have only one close friend that they feel comfortable sharing with.
Exactly.
And so if that, close friend also happens to be your significant other who you are, locked in a house with a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Then, that could really cause tension and strain on the relationship.
So you're saying that. So basically, what you're saying is that like.
What I'm referring to. What you're
referring to is that with the article that you read said that men, they take like all their problems to like
their spouse.
Okay.
In which she was writing from her perspective of how much of a toll
it's taken on her.
It has taken on her, being which she divorced her husband because of it. So she divorced her husband because of how much pain and trauma she was going through trying to hold him up, because he had so much placed on her of his pain and his trauma and his emotional placed on her. So this was a divorced woman. She was writing this in her, I believe she was early 50s, maybe 52, 51, around there, and she wrote about how she feels. The reason why she divorced, which was, partially because of that, as well as some other things, I presume. And she felt this need, but I kind of want to take it from the outside perspective. It doesn't necessarily have to be a man on the woman. It could also be just a significant other on its partner, or on their partner. So it could be vice versa. But the allusion to this is that you're not, or the presumption is that many partners only talk to their partner about their problems, right? So then that becomes a burden if I have to give you advice. Basically what she said is I became his therapist.
But the thing is, I don't see anything that's wrong with that. I mean, if you truly love whoever you're with, for me, I'll use myself as an example. When I was going through everything and with my back and everything, I became like in a really depressive state, and my girlfriend, she was the one that I leaned on to help me. She came down to school, she stayed with me, and she got me out of that mentality. So I leaned on her in that instance, and sometimes she leans on me, and I think that's how a relationship should be. So
and Chase, I think he's not disagreeing with you. Because I agree that is how a relationship should be. Like, you need to support each other. There needs to be like that two-sided emotional
I will say
support.
she, because I haven't really gave my vocal yet.
But yeah, Chris, the author or whatever, is saying when it becomes one-sided, right? Where it's just one person that's like pouring out to the other person, and the other person has to basically be the therapist, right? Then that's where it becomes problematic, right? Especially... I feel like it's more predominantly men that have this issue, because there's a stigma, right, that men need to be like almost emotionless, right, in the world. So, whether you're at work or, you're out and about, or really like out with friends, right, you're supposed to, have it together and not like be too emotional. So like if your boss is yelling at you at work, you have to keep your composure no matter how mad it makes you, right? And if something bad happens to like your grandma, you have to like hold it together all day, right? Like
to kind of be the support, the backbone of the family,
right? And you have to basically like you have to have a certain composure about you. At least that's the stigma. And so what happens is like the guy will go home, right, and all those emotions that he's been holding back all day to appear emotionless and appear like he has it together, they all come out onto the wife. So I think that's kind of where like the author was going, is those emotions, they get bottled up, get unpacked on the significant other, and that can be burdensome.
I see what you're saying now. Yeah, that kind of does suck for her then.
So no, and I would say the way I found that text very interesting because it does not only correlate to significant others, and this is kind of why I brought this text in, because we started by talking about peer relationships with friendships, just in general, but then it also ties into what if your significant other is your friend as well. Mm-hmm. Right? So, and then if that's your only friend or the only person you feel comfortable with, a lot of times we don't find the need to check in on them as much as we always have something to give because it makes us feel good. Mm-hmm. But then we don't necessarily check in on them on how they're doing. We forget that because we're focused on ourselves so much. Mm-hmm. So then it will be like for you in your case, like you coming home, pouring all your stuff, but then pouring out all your, locked up, whatever you got bottled up, but then saying, but forgetting to ask, hey, Jenna, how are you doing today? Mm-hmm. How are you feeling? How is your mental health? What can you unbottle? And I think that's where she was really coming from with that. So speak on it from that perspective. I want to engage with that for those who don't necessarily understand that they're the ones doing that. And I also want to speak to those that are on the reception side. How would you necessarily handle that, right? So how do you handle that in a relationship? How do you handle that in a friendship? So let's speak about...
what do you mean by handle it?
How do we go about... so she divorced her husband.
Okay.
Right? So how do you go about handling that? Do you get what do you do in that situation when someone just is really taking a toll on your... Like, you're becoming a therapist and you didn't sign up for this, right? So how do you handle that? So let's talk about how do we recognize it first, and then we'll talk about how do we handle it. How do we recognize that when we're doing that ourselves?
That's a great question.
So what steps do you do to make sure you not do that, right? What steps do you to make sure you're not in that state, right, with your partner?
Well, for me and Jenna, I don't know, it's kind of a little bit different. I mean, we never really, I would say, have that problem. We're both very open. But she's my best friend, but we're both, very open about, what's going on in our lives. And, if she, is going through something, I'm always there. If I'm going through something, she's always there. And so there's never really an instance where, either she's putting too much on me or I'm putting too much on her. We're both kind of right there in the middle where we both put a lot on each other, but it fits. Like, it levels out, So, for somebody who's going through a time where their significant other or their partner or their friend is putting too much on them, I would just say, maybe have a conversation with that person and be like, hey, I get that you're going through a tough time right now, but, I'm going through a tough time too. Like, maybe we can both sit down and talk about our tough times together. I don't know. I've never really experienced something like that, so I'm not...
Yeah, so to answer your question, I think it comes down to just being self-aware, right? So you have to, be aware of your actions and how your actions impact other people.
That's huge, self-awareness.
And I feel like that's something I'm really good at, is being self-aware. And so I feel like I don't have that problem too much. I feel like the only relationship I feel like I... maybe it might be a little burdensome, is actually my relationship with Davion. Because I feel like I'm always reaching out to Davion, to like hang out or to chat or, to do whatever. And, I know he's a busy guy, so I feel like maybe, I might get a little annoying, but he never expresses it. I pay attention to like his emotions and stuff. So like he doesn't, like if he started like blowing me off and ignoring me and stuff, then, I'd probably be like, okay, he wants a little space. But, and I think it just comes from like trying not to, and it even happens with my girl sometimes. Like I'll send a message or whatever, and like she doesn't reply for a little bit, and my instinct is just like start like sending a whole bunch of messages and be like, hey, like I'm here, like where are you, like I want to talk, I want to like give you attention, I want your attention and stuff, but like sometimes you just kind of like back off a little bit and just say, I just need to like be patient and give them a little space and a little time, because they will come back, like maybe not necessarily come back, but they I don't need to like send a whole bunch of texts and stuff and like overbear them, because I just give them a little time and space, and if it's a true friendship or a relationship or whatever, then they should just come around, right, eventually.
No, I like what you when you said self-aware. It made me think of an example. So a couple of weeks ago, when the day that we guys recorded episode 7, Jenna had gone to Virginia for a job interview, right?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And that same day, she also had an exam, and I was supposed to go down to Indianapolis to speak to the company that I'm going to be working for an internship next summer. The night before, I realized that our dog was sick, right? And he was acting funny, acting strange, and I didn't get much sleep that night. But at the same time, I also knew that Jenna, she was mentally, she wasn't there. Her mind was focused on her job and her exam. So I didn't even tell her that our dog was sick. Like I had to be aware that she's going through something. I can't go to her right now. Like I have to take this right now. And so it was tough for me because I'm the only one there. So I had to figure out how to handle the situation on my own. I barely got any sleep. I had to take care of him, and then I went down to Indianapolis, and I wasn't even able to tell her anything until I knew that she was done for the day and she got everything done, and that's when I told her. So like you said about being self-aware, I had to be self-aware in that situation to know that now it's not a good time for me to put my burdens on her because she's going through something as well.
And I would also say to that point, and given that it's both of you guys' dog, I would also say that kind of something else that you're alluding to for a prime example of to make sure that you're not necessarily that person that's being that burden, right? Being able to offer to take problems away. So in that case, it's like I'm taking this. That our dog is sick. I'm taking our dog, taking her, right? Taking him,
Yeah.
taking him away. I'm taking this problem away from her so that she does not have to worry about that.
Right.
So in our relationships, whether it's friend, family, however the case may be, one of the ways that we can do so to make sure that we're not becoming a burden, we're not just running to them all the time with our problem, is to say, and one way that I would introduce here is to say, check up before, and if you know you're this person, this is a valid way. It's one of the things that I preach over time with some of my clients over the summer, but it's to always ask how someone else is doing before you ask them for a favor. So that's one way to kind of break that habit, right? So if you look at your text, this is one way that you can know you're that person. Look at your text messages, look at your phone calls, look at whoever you're talking to, look at your conversations, acknowledge them. Say, every time, wow. And this is how you develop that self-awareness. Wow, I'm always asking for something. I'm always bringing a problem to this person. If you're doing that, then be able to counter that by saying, I'm going to get better, but before when I think of a problem, when I mentally come up with some type of problem that's going on with me, my life, whatever the case may be, I need money, I'm going to ask, how are you doing before I offer that problem? And if it has to be a day or two before or 24 hours before, do so, right? But never go with straight your problem and begin to ask someone else how they're doing, even if it's not, and I will hope it's genuine, but even if it's not genuine, ask that until it becomes genuine, until it becomes a part of you, to always check up on someone else first, then offer your say-so you can kind of begin to find that balance, and then begin to, kind of, if they do have a problem, think about what their problem is, and then also be able to try and take that away, as Chase did in his situation, and Zenon alluded to, for you to kind of find that self-awareness there. Does that kind of make sense?
No, it makes sense.
While we're on that topic, I think a couple of points I can make. Maybe some advice if you're wondering, how do I be self-aware, right?
Yeah.
How do I work on that?
Yeah.
One good exercise you could do is try to look at yourself from an outside perspective. So, analyze the things you say, right? The things that you do, right? Look at them from a different perspective, as if you're someone else looking at yourself doing something. I know maybe it seems a little hard to imagine, but So like with your significant
I
other,
hear you.
you
Yeah.
try and look through your significant other's eyes. Like, how do I look coming to them saying this? How do I look, when I act this way? And another thing you can do to kind of gain some more self-awareness too is pay attention to like body language and signs and stuff in other people, because that'll help you understand how they're feeling. And a lot of the times, like, that body language and how they're feeling when you're talking or when you're doing stuff, right, that's their just like initial reaction to what you're doing. So if you can see with your eyes that they're having a negative reaction to what you're saying or doing, then that gives you some self-awareness that says, hey, like, maybe I'm doing this the wrong way.
That's a very good point. And when you said that, it kind of rekindled a fire in me of some of my notes in one of the chapters that I wrote in this book, which is shadow side versus your light side, right? So we all have a shadow side and we all have a light side. Our shadow side is, our light side is what we think we're doing. We think we're being this way. We think we're trying to be happy. We're trying to be, courageous. We're trying to, do this. But your dark side or your shadow side is necessarily how you're being perceived. Mm-hmm. So one of the exercises that I usually walk through with someone that's, going through self-awareness is always, all right, so first step, take a sheet of paper, draw a line through it. You have a shadow side and a light side. Write down all the things that you try to be, all the things that you try and perceive yourself as. So I try and perceive myself as, or I try and make myself be courageous, happy, intelligent, and write down that list on the left side of the paper. And then on the right side of the paper, for the shadow side, I would like you to write down all the things that someone has ever said about you, saying that you're the negative things, the things that you would not like to, be or align with, gullible, or stupid, ignorant, whatever else, and those are just, bad things. Ugly, right? Write down all those things of your shadow side and then begin to see which ones may intertwine with which, right? So then you look at the one side, you may be trying to be nice, and the other side, someone may call you gullible, right? So then that's when you can begin to see, okay, that's when you draw a spectrum between the two. After you can start connecting these dots, with the left side and the right side, you draw a spectrum and say, okay, if I believe myself as here on this spectrum, I need to move a little bit this way, right? And then you can, that's a way of self-reflection that you can kind of go with, right? Acknowledging your shadows, your light side, but then also not being afraid to write down your shadow side. And you have to listen to me here. This is very important. You have to write down all the things that someone has said about you. You have to be able to accept those, right? Because at the end of the day, even if you don't believe those about yourself, someone has said it, which means someone has perceived you to be that way, right? Which means, in this case, you don't necessarily have to change at all, but you have to acknowledge that's one of the ways that you can come off, right? So then that's how you self-reflect and say, am I okay with someone perceiving me this way? If so, then you're fine. But if not, what do I need to do to change that, right? And it's a fine balance, because sometimes you can't do very much to change when people are just speaking from
like a negative mentality.
Right, yeah, a non-genuine, right, feel. But that's a very good exercise. And I would, persuade anybody out there or not persuade, I would push anybody out there, right? Encourage anyone out there, struggling with self-awareness to kind of go through that exercise.
Man, y'all got me over here about to ask you guys, how are you guys doing today? No, I think this is a great way to, this conversation has been a great way to end the Mental Health Awareness Month. Today's October 29th. So
by the time they hear this, it's going to be November.
Yeah, that's true. But
it's true.
But no, let me ask you guys, how are you guys doing? Are you guys okay?
I'm doing fine today, Chase. I'm doing great. I think I just did well on some of my exams. The week is lovely. We did go through some complications with recently with I was going to be a donor for my mom for kidney, and I carry a gene for APOL1, which means I'm later in life will be stand a good chance of being my kidney will fail later in life, or high risk for a kidney later in life, which means I can't necessarily donate anymore. So we're still hopeful. We're very, we're faith oriented. We're still finding our blood type is O negative if anybody wants to donate a kidney to my mother. But actually in the future we do plan. I try and reach out to find someone with health in the medical field to kind of join us on the podcast to kind of destimulate a lot of the
destigmatize.
Yeah, destigmatize a lot of the scaredness when it comes to health in the public field. Because even with me, you think of donating a kidney and you think it's like the end of the world, right? But many times, especially the stuff I learned, it's like, oh yeah, if I could, I would go do it for someone else, even if it wasn't my mother, just because of it's not necessary. If you're healthy in the test that you go through, I mean, I was going through a process since June, so it's a lot, that they actually go through with the testing and stuff. And actually, you're more likely to live longer if you donate a kidney because of how healthy you are than someone who does not. So that was pretty interesting when I was kind of going through that. But other than that, I'm doing well. I'm excited to try and find someone to bring on from the medical team on our podcast to kind of talk about that. But other than that, great Friday, keeping the faith, and that's a good plug for getting someone to come forward and donate if needed.
How are you doing?
I'm not gonna lie. Earlier this week, I had a really bad mental health day. I was just down in the dumps, and I took some time to meditate, right? Because that usually helps me get out of a bad mental health state. Because you can really fall into a hole when it comes to mental health, right? So if you don't address, you have to recognize, right? Okay, I'm feeling kind of depressed today, right? So you have to recognize that and acknowledge that, and you have to try and do what you can to counteract it. How can I make myself feel better? What can I do? Because there are things you can do, right? The problem, right, is getting yourself convincing yourself or motivating yourself to actually do something, right? Because a lot of times you just want to lay there and wallow, right? But so whether it's meditation or whether it's exercise, going to the gym, going for a run, even just going for a walk, getting outside, getting some fresh air. There's lots of things you can do. But I chose to I think I meditated and I did some exercise. But yeah, so I just meditated.
You definitely got some exercise on the football field.
Yeah, but that wasn't the same day though.
Okay.
This was a different day. But yeah, so I did some meditation, cleared my mind, tried to relax, and I'm feeling great now. It was just one bad day, it happens every once in a while. But I feel like I haven't really had a bad day in a while, so it's interesting how emotions can just kind of spring out of nowhere, and there's definitely a reason that I was feeling that way, and so I had to think myself through the problems that they were starting to pile up on me. So I actually I made a list on my phone of all the things that I need to do, right? And that's one of the things that will get me feeling down in the dumps, is just feeling overwhelmed. There's so much stuff that I need to do, and I feel like I'm not going to be able to do it all, and you start worrying about too many things at once. So yeah, I made a list on my phone of all the things that I need to do, and I just started knocking out things one by one, starting with the easiest stuff. What can I do right now? And so I just got a couple things done. Did some meditation, and I kind of got myself out of that hole as fast as possible. And
so you would say the list helps. The list helps.
The list does help.
I found that helpful for me too with lists. So I mean that's a tactic for you guys out there for lists. It helps me as well.
The other day I watched an interview where Pete Davidson, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's been very open about his mental health issues. And one of the things that he said was that his method for getting out of his his hole or depressive state was just thinking or realizing the things that he needs to be grateful for, such as like his family, like his sister, his dogs, and just really understanding that he needs to be better for them because they need him. So for me, it's kind of that same way. I realize that whenever like I'm down in the dumps, I realize that you know my girlfriend, she needs me and I need her. And whenever I'm at my lowest of lows, two things help. One, working out, and two, just spending time with her. She's my partner. She's my right hand. I turn off my phone. I turn off social media, and even though I hate doing art projects, I'll do an art project with her or something, and I'm completely better.
Talk about you said working out. Okay. And last thing here before we wrap up, can you talk about like how much of a physical attribute? I know Zen also alluded to going out and getting a workout in. How does that really help? Because I know the science is out there proving it kind of help mental health.
That's what I was about to say.
But that's obvious because people if they want to look at it, if they want to look at it, they could. But how does it personally? You guys can say if you could say a few words on that. How does it help you? Personally, right?
For me, it's just the simple fact that I get a chance to sweat out whatever's going on. When I enter the weight room or I'm about to go for a run, the last thing I'm thinking about is my problems. The only thing that I'm thinking about is lifting that weight or running that mile to get a better time. You know what I'm saying? So it's everything that's going on is just like getting pushed to the back of my mind. So it's like I'm not even thinking about it. All I'm thinking about is I need to get this 315 off my chest or something like that.
See, he talking about 315. I'm still trying to get back in the 200 club. You feel me?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk like the science behind it with like the chemicals in your brain.
Course,
I think they're like endorphins or something like that. That's the actual thing. But I think what it comes down to is like being depressed. Well, obviously, not everyone experiences it the same way, but it's almost like it can be like a buildup of energy in a way where you don't feel like motivated to do anything, but there's like this almost like this anxious energy, right? That's all built up from like all your problems and stuff. So you go to the gym and you're releasing energy, right? You're pumping your muscles, and like Chase said, first of all, it gets your focus off of your problems, right? Instead of dealing with your mental problems, you're dealing with a physical problem of the weight on your chest.
Exactly. Yeah.
getting that bar up, or when you're running, I think running, is not really with weights. So running is more of just a therapeutic thing, right? Where you're not thinking about it anymore. You're just thinking about your breathing, and you're thinking about your, every step that you're taking. And so, but I think just getting tired, it really honestly
releases that anxious energy.
Right, because it's hard to be like all like anxious and stuff and depressed when you're tired from a workout.
Yeah, that's
at that
true.
point, you just want to like maybe shower, eat, go to sleep.
Yeah, just get some air. Just sit down and just breathe for a second.
And it really helps you like relax, because that's something that is hard to do when you're like depressed or anxious or whatever. And like I said before, you kind of just like you end up like laying there awake, just like thinking about all your problems. And that's why I try to meditate, is just to like clear my mind. But if you're not like experienced like in meditation, or meditation's just not working, working out, right, and tiring yourself out and getting those endorphins, that'll really help you clear your mind and relax, which is essential to getting out of that depressive or anxious state. So.
Well, we'll give you guys updates. You guys keep streaming the college films, and we'll be working around our state here coming up soon, and we'll keep you guys updated on some more updates. Follow our social medias at What's Your Story Vlog. Next week, this time it comes out. Z, I think your album will be coming out the following day.
Go ahead.
No, the same day.
The same day.
Same
so the
day.
album's out today.
So yeah, for the people who are listening, if they're listening to this on the day it releases,
right,
that means today is November 5th.
Yeah.
For the listeners. And
album's out regardless.
My album drops on November 5th, so if you're listening to it, that means the album is definitely out 100%.
I'm excited for it.
You should definitely go listen.
What platforms and the name? Zeno? Is it
yeah,
now?
yeah. So it's You can look me up on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, really whatever your music app of choice is, I'm on there. So look me up, Zenon. Sorry, not Zen. That's my real name. Yeah. So look up Zeno, Zenno, and then the album name is The Beginning.
The Beginning. Yeah. Because that's what it is. Only the beginning. Chase, take us out. What you got?
Start off, I'm gonna end with the quote I started with, which is comparison is the killer of all joy. So to wrap up Mental Health Awareness Month, don't let somebody kill your joy. Don't be envious of what other people got going on. Just be happy for them. Don't let what somebody else has going for them kill what you got going for you.
Don't be jealous. Be motivated, baby. All right, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.